Literally comes down to this is I created a subset of rules and it really was just two rules. It was obviously buy on a dip, and then it was buy after a weekly closure of 10%, because previously every time there's been a weekly closure of 10% after a dip, it's gone up. So you can see we've got this one 10%. I think this was just shy of 10%. So that was just shy of 10%. And then this one was over 10%. Then we did have this here, which I think was a little bit sauce. This, or no,
Yeah.
that was under 10%.
Well,
And
that
then
was
then I went all the way back to here and was kind of doing the same thing. And like every time that it rallied, there was like a 10% move. But you can see like there's one down here. So it's interesting. I just kind of went off of that, and then, obviously the world being so uncertain. I mean,
right.
who would have thought? It's kind of crazy with Russia, like they're considering, using BTC to accept for oil, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot happening, guys. A lot all surrounding around crypto. So, a lot of fundamentals reporting to it, as Angelo said, basic TA and then a subset of rules that you kind of go by. And, what do you know? You have a winning formula, you know. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about more crypto at the end, but let's switch over to Forex. We'll change gears a little bit here, see what the market is looking like this week. But yeah, crypto, man. What a time.
Yeah, I've been following like Nas the last few weeks, and then BTC. Not really any other cryptos, but I don't know, man. FX just isn't as good as these.
Yeah, there's definitely more focus on crypto. I would agree. Eth's moving pretty good. There are some other ones, some like metaverse coins that are getting some momentum again, kind of just getting dragged by BTC and the rest of the market. But definitely interesting time. Yeah, so we're gonna cover AU, Kristen, and then there's another question: is it allowed to record?
Yeah, I don't think you can record yourself, but the meeting is recorded, and then we'll just put it up on YouTube afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you're doing like a loom on top of this or something. But anyway, let's jump over to DXY here. That would just crash your computer, I would think, unless you got something
That'd be
beast,
wild.
a powerhouse computer. So DXY, guys, primarily bullish. So I'm going to take you through the method here pretty much. I'm going to the higher time frames, grabbing the overall trend, just basically like a quick look, identify some key levels, then drop down to the 4-hour and go over both a bullish scenario and a bearish scenario. And then we'll talk through them a little bit. So here on DXY, we can see clearly that we've been moving higher, right? Key characteristics of a bullish trend: higher highs, higher lows, breaks of resistance, and so on. So very bullish. We can see that we broke this level here, pretty much 97.5. This zone, we cleared it, and then we got a higher low. And then we can even see from this time frame that we're ranging. So we've been bouncing between these two zones. Let's get a closer look at that. But we know that we're overall bullish. All right, the dollar's been moving up quite a bit, a lot of volume. And then here is that range that we established, right? So it pushed up, hit the high, came back down, formed a low. This was the first higher low above this level, the support level. And then it just started bouncing between these two. So 99.25 is resistance, 97.85 is support. Lots of rejection, pretty sharp rejection too. So now price action is kind of consolidating, forming a bit of a pennant, symmetrical triangle. Just because we're on the higher time frame, I would consider this more of a triangle, but we're kind of between zones, somewhere in the middle. The most likely thing is that price action is going to continue higher into resistance, and then we'll reanalyze, consider a break of resistance and push higher, or a rejection as we've been seeing. So that's the most likely scenario, just because everything's kind of pointing in a bullish direction. There's nothing really here on this chart that suggests bearish movement, not yet anyway. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. What do we need to see to consider it bearish? And that would be a total fail of this pattern continuing. So price action would fall, actually break this little higher low here, minor level, and then ideally form a lower high below that, and then start printing some bearish setups. Okay, that would be the first step to considering this bearish. But then again, we're looking for it to hit 97.85, but we're still technically within the range. So really, on the daily time frame, it's kind of better to go by. So for this whole trend to change, we really need to get back below 97, start seeing some lower highs. Now that may happen in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of news happening, a lot of economic events that's kind of driving, this reserve currency higher. It makes sense in times of uncertainty. People turn towards reserve currencies. So when this does come back, we'll be looking for it to get below this level, and then we could, comfortably say that we're heading lower on the dollar. But for now, definitely bullish. So pretty crazy. Let's jump over to AU. First tradable pair. Let's just go to the higher time frame here for a second. So this is the weekly, actually. And I just want to bring this to your attention because we had a pretty strong weekly channel here. I mean, this thing was in play for a while, May 2021, all the way to February 2022, which is where it broke. We saw the lower high break and then the resisting trend line. Nice little retest on that. So we are newly bullish on the weekly. Just wanted to point that out. And then the daily also is bullish. We could see that break a little more closely in a little more detail right here. This was that transition, right? Lower highs here, price action broke through that, retested, and then continued. So that's a clear break and retest, definitely bullish from there. I mean, as you can see, these candles are huge. Volume really stepped in. But some of you guys may notice that this is looking a little bit overextended just from the daily time frame. You guys may be able to spot that. So let's go to the 4-hour, get a closer look. Because we know that we're pretty high up here, right? Price action looks like it's curving out a little bit, but this is a lot of volume. So from this whole rally here, 340 pips on AU, mind you, one of the slowest moving pairs, pip wise, almost 350 pips on this run here. So that's pretty crazy. Definite high volume for AU, a little abnormal. So we'd like to see this form structure. We want to see that nice higher low above 0.74, which we haven't seen yet. It's kind of forming this minor higher lows. Nothing major there, but it is starting to curve out. So this would be ideal. Get some nice setups here. Good rejection off this level, and then we get a nice trade up towards 0.76 resistance. So this is TP 180 pips, stop loss 60. So just about a 3-to-1 risk reward. So pretty good. Pretty good if it continues bullish. That's what we'll need to see. It'll take a little time to play out. We're still here on the 4-hour. So it's got to come all the way down, then react, and then give us our setups to enter. So this will take some time. Assuming, I mean, this is, how many pips away from this? Still 100 pips. So it'll probably take some time. Now, for us to consider this bearish, again, we need to get back below 0.74 with the lower high below. That would be ideal because, again, nothing here says this is bearish. There's just nothing in the price action that suggests that this is a bearish chart, And you can kind of double check this on the daily too, right? This is definitely the key zone in play. We've seen a lot of resistance at this level before. We're expecting it to react as support if we get back to it. So that will be definitely, the key level. Break or bounce, guys. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so that's AU. A lot of volume this week, guys. I wish this was the last high volume pair that I'm going to cover, but it only gets worse from here. Sorry. AJ is bad and UJ is bad too, but EJ is looking good and gold's looking pretty good. So let's go to AJ. I mean, this looks like some pattern out of like a fiction book. Like this is just nuts. Like what is this? Like the Loch Ness monster pattern? Like look how high this thing is up here. Look at the neck on this thing. It's nuts. So overall, very bullish, complete lack of structure. We did break through key resistance at 88 here. So, we want to continue with the trend. That's where the highest probability trades are going to be. And we want to do that after we see structure. So, I do have this pulling back quite a bit. 60-18 lines up pretty well with the 88 zone, but we are about 400 pips away. So, I mean, there's not much we can do here on AJ at this time. Unless you guys got some, crazy strategy, there's nothing you can do with this. You need structure. There's no point of entry. There could be, other scenarios that are yet to play out. Like, let's say this just starts consolidating like crazy. Then you could find break and retest, lower highs, something to base price action on. But when you just have a straight up chart like this, just a rocket, there's nothing there. You can't do anything with it, unfortunately. And we can take a look at the weekly for a second too, just to kind of show you the volume on this. All right, so price action was kind of consolidating actually. We saw higher lows up to this resistance level, 85. And then once that broke, once that lid popped off, man, this thing just went. And we're up there now. So we're super overextended. Need to see a little bit more on this. Yeah, I actually put this out as a daily analysis just because, yeah, there's nothing, fortunately. Now, if we do break back below 88, we will consider lower highs, structure forming lower highs. We'll see. We'll have to see how price action reacts. But yeah, this probably will just, if it does reverse from this point, it'll probably take quite a few days to fall. If, this week it may even just get to this point, 88 support, and then we'll see reactions maybe next week. But it's going to take a while. That is just so much volume. It's insane. I mean, this is what, 720 pips from the break of 85. I mean, if you got in on that, that would be amazing. You guys are really cashing out on that.
How much percentage was that? 9%?
8.5 on a currency pair, guys.
Yeah, that's a fuck ton for
That's absurd, man. You don't see that often. I don't know if I've ever seen that much movement on AJ. So yeah, we're up 8.5% on AJ total value wise. So there's not much we can do with this. We need this to pull back at least 4%. Like, it's just crazy. So AJ's on the sideline. It's on the bench, keeping it warm for us. We'll get back to it. All right, so UJ, a little bit better. Again, super overextended. This is kind of what we've been seeing lately, especially these JPY pairs. It's kind of a mess. This one's another record, 750, right? Almost 760, 6.6% total move on UJ as well. Pretty wild stuff. So this one we were actually able to throw a fib on, but I also did put this one out as the daily analysis because, again, we need to fall almost 300 pips before our first structure point. There's not much you can do with that. So that would be the most likely scenario. Let's say it does continue bullish. We'd like to see 120 react as support. It's a nice confluence area, 38.2 fib levels there as well. That's enough to consider structure, but it's got to react the right way. Give us those bullish setups off that support level, and then we're in. And we'll target key levels 125, negative 27% fib level. But we'll see. This is, again, a waiting game. Really, really shitty. All right, so EJ is looking a little bit better, but let's go to the weekly for a second. There's a lot of interesting things have actually been happening on EJ. So I actually highlighted this in last week's analysis as well, that this is a giant weekly bullish flag. So UJ reacted off 116, nice double bottom, broke a lower high, went bullish from that point. This was the structure forming high or low right here. See how it retested this broken level? Price action moved through it, came back down, reacted in a bullish way. That confirmed that we are newly bullish, right? So then price action took off, established the flagpole, started consolidating, giving us the flag. And now it looks like it's breaking to the upside. So this is continuing on the weekly scale, which is pretty nuts. So 133 is the key level. Let's get a closer look on the daily to start. And here is the flag. Let me just highlight this a little bit. So resisting trend line, supporting trend line, and then let's just get a range on it so you guys have some perspective. 550 pip distance there. So that's pretty wild, kind of abnormal. You don't see those types of patterns too often. But let's highlight this most recent move. So we literally pivoted off the bottom of the flag. We actually came all the way down to like 124.5, just past it, which is crazy. So 124.5 all the way up to where we are now at 134, which is, again, one of the biggest moves. I mean, that's 1,000 pip move, guys. 7% on the whole move. Like, that's crazy.
Thousands of pips.
Yeah, millions of pips. So this was from March 8th to now. 1,000 pips banked. Not bad, guys. 20 days, 1,000 pips. Yeah, that's not a bad work week. So let's go to the 4 hour, guys. So this is what I was talking about, where it looks a little bit more clear. We have a pretty tight but also steep bullish channel on the 4 hour. So there is 4 hour structure here. We're moving higher. There's a nice little break and retest here on the 133 level. And the only bullish scenario that I can spot is that this just continues, right into 137. If you get the right, confirmations on the 1 hour, good bullish setups, something that you can feel confident about, it is forming good structure here on the 4 hour. I mean, look at this, right? We established the high, retested, broke through it, retested again, right? So the random line is there. It's being respected. It's moving higher. This would be the only, scenario I'd be interested based on what we can see right now. But this would be a pretty decent trade. I mean, this is 250 pips up to 137. Your stop loss would be somewhere around here at 83. And we're looking at a 3-to-1. So it's actually not that bad. Okay, now if this doesn't happen and we start to curve out, or this, channel starts to fail, for us to consider this bearish, we need to get below 133. Structure forming lower high below, you get into a nice short opportunity, start targeting back into the flag, these minor levels throughout, and just make sure you can get a good risk reward. Don't force anything. You at least need a 2-to-1, and looks like we have the volume here to easily achieve that. Over 200 pip TP, around 100 pip stop loss, not bad. But a lot of movement here on EJ. The good thing, I do feel pretty confident here on EJ actually for this long scenarios, because when EJ commits to something, it really, really commits. And it's dramatized until we get to like a major level, and that's where we'll see reactions. It's very unlikely that will just reverse randomly. Like EJ will pump into a major level, react, and then take off doing, whatever it's going to do next. So I'm pretty confident if we get the right setups here, this could be a nice trade. But I mean, this week is nuts, definitely one for the books, not one you see often. Just sheer volume. It's pretty nuts. So let's go to gold. Gold's actually looking good. I mean, this is nice to see because, when, obviously you do a full analysis, guys, and every week you're not going to see a setup on every pair. One may be on the bench while another one's looking really good. And then that'll kind of alternate. For those of you guys that were on, prior Sunday Market Blitz sessions, a couple months ago or a month ago, you would have seen, this analysis, and that there was really nothing there to trade on gold. And now, something's back to trade. We could find good structure, whereas some of the other pairs, we're not seeing anything. Just kind of how it goes. It's just different waves of the market. So you gotta pick and choose and follow what's good. Find your trades, don't force anything, and just follow what the market says. So let's go to the daily time frame to start. Overall, we know we're bullish. We did have a recent milestone here. We rocketed back up towards the 2070 area, which we'd only really hit once before. So this was interesting, super, super bullish. I mean, this rallied off of support at 1800 all the way to 2000. Wow, I didn't even realize this is a 15% increase almost on gold that we saw on this run here. So that's pretty nuts. And then let's do the opposite. It came back down. How much? We lost 8% of its value on this pullback alone. So we're dealing with big numbers, guys. When volume is in play, it's pretty wild. It's mostly higher time frame stuff that's really taking play here. That's why you can see such high percentage moves. I mean, clearly that's not a 4-hour move. This is a daily, weekly, potentially even a monthly move. So that's always good to be aware, trying to associate movement with time frames. Okay, this is obviously something larger in play. So we are bullish. We did pull back. We found some support here in 1930, still holding, so still technically bullish, but there is a little pattern here. Let's get a closer look on the 4-hour. All right, so this looked like a nice little symmetrical triangle actually, and usually that's a continuation pattern. It didn't play out here. Kind of danced around this 1930 level, couldn't really find a direction, failed to get higher lows above, failed to get lower highs below, until eventually it consolidated enough, price action popped, went bullish, broke above, and then retested even, right here for another higher low, which is nice. So this is technically an active trade, based on how I would analyze this. Technically an active trade, looking to play it back towards 2000, stop loss just below 1930. Giving us a 3.3 risk reward. So that's pretty good. To continue entering on this, keep looking for higher lows, try and play that 4-hour trend, just, manage accordingly as this, 4-hour trend continues to play out, or this move continues to play out. So we'll see. I mean, if this completely fails, right, let's say it gives us a double top, just dumps from there, look for a lower high below 1930. We can consistently bounce off 1930 and stay bullish. Okay, it's only when we break and get the lower high below that we can definitely say, okay, we're now bearish. We can start considering short opportunities. Okay, so yeah, we are bullish on gold. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy week. It's going to be a test of patience for sure. I mean, the dollar is looking bullish already, so that's probably going to trickle over to UJ. Maybe some of these other ones will just continue with the trend we've been seeing. So it's going to be tricky. But recap, I did DXY, AU, AJ, UJ, EJ, and gold. They're active charts. You can jump over to TradingView here, play these charts forward, see which trade path price action is following best, and just use it to your advantage through the week. The links are dropped in Telegram and Discord. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for you all on Forex. Let's pass it over to Angelo, see what he's looking at.
You want to actually just hit on Ethereum real quick?
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what we got. Is it on this account? I usually analyze on the desktop, but let's see if this one's done. So yeah, I actually got crypto on the desktop, Forex on the Mac, because I gotta have two separate accounts. So Ethereum here, we're moving up. I mean, this has actually been crazy. We're breaking 3150, which is really a pivot zone. Key level for structure here, right? We pushed up, met the prior high. This was the all-time high over here originally at 4,000. We met that, came back down, got structure, established this support level, 3150, pushed to a new high. We almost hit 5K, came back down. So we actually broke 3150, got a lower high. So this was bearish at this point. This thing was absolutely melting. This was the final zone, 2000. We're going to expect breaker retest there. Luckily, price action caught, kind of got dragged by BTC. You guys will notice in the higher time frames, they look pretty similar. And then we have the volume. So let's apply Angelo's methodology here. We have a 14% candle followed by a 14, well, let's say 15%. It's 14.9. By a 15% candle breaking back through our key level at 3150. So this is where we need to see a higher low. But let's go to the daily for a second. Drop down. So yeah, this is the key level. Look at this. Break, retest, nice lower high, another lower high. We broke through that, both of them actually. And now we're entering back above the support level. So this thing looks like it's ready to go. I mean, we need to get a little bit higher, form a higher low, and then keep going. I mean, but this is super extended too. Like, what is this whole rally here? 30% increase since March 15th. So the second half of this month, we've seen Ethereum jump 30%, which is pretty nuts. That's big movement. And it looks like it's going to continue. I mean, we could drop to the 4 hour, but I don't think it's really necessary. It's probably better that we look at this from more of a macro perspective. Because, I mean, what could we get from this? We have a 4 hour bullish channel. You know, that's only so valuable unless you're, you know, scalping this or trying to intraday trade this, which I don't really recommend. This was the time to buy, and we're going to hold this to new all-time highs ideally. So like there's not much here on the 4 hour. You know, you try and catch a higher low there. But really, we need daily structure. This is the key to really confirming this is potentially the next rally. I mean, my first target would be back to 4,800, 5,000 area for psychological purposes. I mean, let's just throw a trade on this back towards the prior high. So let me mark this up real quick. So I want to see this push a little bit higher, really clear this lower high, you know, and this high even too. You know, we're a little bit short of that. So I want to see this push with a little more momentum, maybe hit this minor level in here, and then come back, give us that daily higher low. Structure is always key. And then we could be off towards the prior high, the prior all-time high, or maybe even a new all-time high, which is pretty exciting because, you know, as these weeks are progressing, it's looking more and more realistic that this is going to happen sooner than later. So let's take a look at what this long position, just for percents and to visualize the trade, guys. We're targeting, again, up to 4,800, 50% increase. Stop loss already, stop loss all the way down here is 3 to 1, and we wouldn't even need to be that close or that far away. I'd feel comfortable at a 1 to 7 area. All right, so stop loss is just below 3,000. Psychological level, also a minor level here, structure as well. And then we're targeting back towards the prior high. So it's not an unrealistic target either. You know, we're not greedy. We're not being like, all right, guys, we're going to target 10K. Like, this is our trade for the week. Like, no. You know, we're not even going to target an all-time high, just the prior high. And that makes sense based on what we're seeing. You could even kind of scale up a little bit and check this in terms of just like the flow of the chart, how things are going. You want to make sure your things are realistic, and this all makes sense. Okay, so we've been pushing what was this increase? Just for 133%. And then a pullback of what? 50. So even if we get 100%, that puts us at 5K. Okay, so this makes sense. Okay, but yeah, we're above 3150, so definitely more bullish than bearish. But I'm sure a lot of cryptos are showing the exact same thing in some way or form. But yeah, that's Ethereum. This is my biggest coin, if you guys are wondering. I'm biggest on Ethereum. I have the most of this by far. But yeah, a little ETH. A little bit of ETH. Drop in chat, guys, what coins you guys are looking at, or hold to yourselves. I'd be interested to know. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it off to Angelo now. We'll see what he's got.
Word down. Let's take a look. Yeah, if you go like crypto.com, they actually have on if you look at their charts, they basically have where you can just compare them to BTC. And it's super interesting because literally like every fucking chart is correlated with BTC.
Right. It's like the DXY of crypto.
Yeah, it's literally like the DXY of crypto. It's actually insane.
Also,
So
Patrick's got some XRP.
yeah, what I've been actually looking into is doing the crypto loans. So last night I was like fucking binge watching YouTube for hours, and basically,
Right.
dude, it's so crazy. Like basically, if you have, say you have like 100K Bitcoin, right? And then you want to go buy like a house, right? And you want to put down 20% on the house. So say it's like a $500,000 house, you got to put down 100 grand. Instead of selling the Bitcoin for cash and then buying the house, like when you sell the Bitcoin for cash, it's a taxable event, so you're gonna get taxed on that.
Right.
Instead, you can basically, there's multiple exchanges that do it, and then there's actually this mortgage broker out of Miami that just started doing it as well. You can basically just use your crypto as collateral, and then they'll loan you. It depends like from which source, but in some cases they'll loan you 100%. So if you put up 100 grand,
Right.
literally just put up 100 grand for your
Now,
deposit.
I have an interesting question for that. So like whatever Bitcoin's priced at, is it pegged at whatever time you signed or bought it at? And then let's say you like Bitcoin doubled and they're holding double the value of what the loan was. Could you cash that out, pay them, and then get your 100K profit?
Yeah, so if you say you bought like 2 Bitcoin, and then basically you took out a loan, the loan's being taken out at whatever the price is at the time of the loan, right? So if you're
Right.
taking out USD, and at the time of you taking out USD, Bitcoin was 20K, you'd be taking out a 40K loan, right?
Right.
So you technically owe back 40 grand. Now, if your Bitcoin starts going up, you only need to maintain the balance. It's called loan to value. You only need to maintain the balance of what your actual loan is. So
Oh, I see.
if Bitcoin doubles, you can pull out like 40 grand.
Right.
Right.
And vice versa. You'll need to add if it dumps.
If it dumps, it depends which exchange you go on, but basically there's like margin calls. So if it goes down like 30%, there's like I forgot, this is like the part that I'm still wrapping my head around, is if it goes down 30%, you get margin called, and then I believe you have to add like crypto, but then
Right.
if it goes down like 70% or something like that, they start to liquidate your crypto basically to hedge against it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's interesting.
yeah, it's super interesting. So that's the part that I'm still figuring out. I'm about to call them actually tomorrow, but there's like an exchange called, it's Nexo, BlockFi, and then Celsius. And basically you can take out, there's like certain levels you can be at based on like count type, but like the highest level you can take out a loan, I think it's like a 5% interest rate. So if you put up like 100,000, you could take out either 25% of it or 50% of it, or all the way up to 75% of it. And then the interest rate's just like higher at 75. I think it's like 9%.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you can choose to use that money, however however you please, and then you got to like pay down the principal. It's just like a regular loan, and then your crypto is just like the collateral. So the advantages to it is if you were going to be holding Bitcoin regardless, and you're bullish on Bitcoin. I mean, year over year, Bitcoin's what, like 30% gains, pretty much. Like,
Yeah, if you would
on
average it, right?
history. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
somewhere.
average it out, it's averaged about 30% year over year, maybe more. So if you're looking at it like that and you're just bullish on Bitcoin, then you really just want to be holding Bitcoin. And while you're holding Bitcoin, you might as well use it to take out loans.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like another use for it rather than just holding. Might as well. Makes sense.
Yeah, like
That's wild.
there was this one guy, he was basically saying that what you can do is, this is what he did. He bought a condo cash, and I forgot why he bought it cash. I think he bought it cash under market value because he just bought it cash. But I don't
Right.
really understand that, because right now a lot of people are paying cash, and there's the market's so hot that they're still paying a little. This was like
Yeah.
in Miami that he did this, but anyway, I guess he got, like, one reason that paying cash could be a good deal is if you pay cash, but then you finance it. So you open up a mortgage for the house. Basically, you could potentially finance it for like more, I guess, than you paid cash. So then there's like a situation where the house is then worth more, and then you're pulling out money already
Okay.
on the house. So that's like one reason to pay the cash, but that part I didn't fully understand. But basically, he bought it cash, and then he brought it down to like 20% equity. So then he pulled the cash out of the home through getting a mortgage. And then with the remaining money, let's say hypothetically he spent like $1 million. With the remaining money, 800 grand, basically he put 400 grand into Bitcoin miners. He has like a warehouse with Bitcoin miners. He put 400 grand into Bitcoin miners, which generate like a stupid amount of money. But he was basically saying like one of them, I think it was like one miner over the course of a year can generate $43,000, right? And I think the cost of each miner was like, I forgot how much the cost was, but it wasn't that cheap, but it was definitely under 30 grand. But basically, you buy a miner, and the interest that you're then paying on the mortgage, you can offset with the miner. And then he was saying with the other 400 grand, you can put it into Charles. I didn't even know you could do this. You could put it into Charles Schwab or another brokerage, and then you could do the same thing as the crypto loan. You basically put in the 400 grand with a financial advisor. They buy all stocks for you, like dividend producing stocks, whatever. And then you can take out a loan against your stock portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I've
you
heard
can
of
use,
that.
yeah, then you can use that to do another deposit on a house.
Dude, this guy's doing the most.
Dude,
My
yeah,
God.
it was like blowing my mind. Like literally, if you have $1 million and you just do that, you're basically buying one house, and then you're either living in it or cash flowing it by renting it, and then you're buying fucking miners, and then you're buying fucking, creating a portfolio on like a brokerage, and then you're pulling the loan, and then you're buying another house. Like you're about to have like fucking four sources of income.
Yeah, I guess that's the quickest way to get homes, rather than waiting for equity to build and then pulling and then, doing it that way. You can kind of utilize the same money twice almost. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's literally insane. Because how does that work with pulling the equity? I mean, you have to, like, say you
Well,
get $1 million house, and then you put down 200,000. When can you actually pull equity? Like after a couple of years or something?
yeah, I'm not sure the time on it. I'm not sure there is a cap. It would just come down to the refinancing options, but I do know when you do go to pull the money, if you do it the right way and move it into real estate, another investment at the same value or more, it's actually tax free. So
Right, yeah.
so everything he takes, it's 1-to-1 going straight into the new investment. So that's actually interesting because if he did that twice, it means he potentially avoided taxes on that when he liquidated it and then bought.
Right. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
That
it's pretty
is
wild. It's pretty
Web
wild.
3, guys. Web 3.
So that's why yeah, I'm trying to figure that out with, because it's like if I'm gonna be holding Bitcoin anyway, and say I wanted to take a loan out of Bitcoin and say I had a decent rate, you could even just do arbitrage with staking, where basically like I had $1 million in Bitcoin and then I pulled out 500,000 for a loan and my interest rate was 5% on that 500,000. And then you put it into an exchange where you can stake it at 10%. You're
Oh,
basically
right.
making 5% on the 500 grand for doing dick.
Yeah, just arbitrage, like
This isn't
interest
like
arbitrage.
anything crazy, but it's still a source of income that could offset something else. So it's just like
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
nuts.
I mean, percentage game, it could be, any amount, honestly. It just depends how much you got. But yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
That's month to month though, right? You're saying
What,
5% a month?
5%?
Yeah.
No, I believe it's per year.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was annual. Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
annualized.
right, that makes more sense then.
Yeah, it's all annualized. Yeah. So
Wow.
looking at BTC, guys, I mean, it's definitely finding, some strength here. I follow this one guy and he was saying that if it closes above 46 on the weekly, that it's gonna shit.
It
And
closes above.
yeah, if it closes above 46, that it's gonna dump. And
Interesting.
just closed, about $1,000 above.
Oh man.
Actually, see what he has to say now.
All right. Yeah, interesting. I mean, TA wise, it looks solid. I like where it's at. That's a nice breaking candle. Conviction candle if I've ever seen one.
Let's see. He said, as long as we close above 46,000, there's a very high probability of a trend. Oh no, you know what? I read it wrong. He was saying a trend reversal
Oh, from bearish to bullish.
from bearish to bullish. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, that
so
makes sense. I could see that. Yeah. Because 46 is like that's where the wicks are at. Yeah, you wanted to be clear.
yeah, it's just basically cleared all this resistance.
Oh, that's a phenomenal setup. Oh, see, like that's classic, guys. We saw price action curve out. It ranged a little bit around a key level. Then it finally committed and broke the lower highs. That's beautiful. Now we ideally structures next, but it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's would most likely retrace to some extent. I mean, you could even see here we had that breakout of this kind of broke out here a bit, but it broke this high. Then we had a dip, then it went up. It kind of did that same thing here though, and then it came down, but and then down here.
Dramatic
So
move.
it was probably gonna be some sort of dip that occurs. So at this point, if you guys are trying to get in on the BTC hype train, I would really just wait for the pullback. It's at least gonna come back to there. And think of it like this. I mean, you buy up here and you're going to lose 5% if it retraces. Potentially, if it falls back into this range, you can now lose 20%.
Yep.
Right. And that's why the position that we had been talking about kind of for the last couple of weeks was down here, because this put us in a very good position to actually exit this with not like a small loss, but it would be a 30% loss, but the stop loss would be below the 30K level, which is very unlikely that we're going to break this 30K level at this point. So, that put us in a position. Then I also lined up some other positions down there. I shouldn't delete this one. Lined up another position. If we got liquidated here, we'd buy back in, and then we'd have good risk reward in that sense. So just kind of look at the risk reward. I mean, right now, if you buy in up here, you're going to really, unless you're starting to put stops in this area, you're starting to consider this to be the higher low that's not going to get below again, which I think at this point's a little early. We got to see how it reacts when it retests, but this would basically be the position. If you entered right now all targets for me are kind of at 100K. That's what everyone talks about. I mean, obviously you can target the previous high first, but I'm really lining it up for 100K. So you'd have a 3.8 risk reward there. And then down here, you'd have a 2.6 risk reward. And then if you're just buying it outright, if you bought in right now, you'd make a little over 100%, 120% on your money. But you have to keep in mind, if it goes down and hits your stop loss, you really got to get out 30%. Unless you're just trying to like long-term hold. This is more trying to actually take a position with a risk. If you're just a long-term Bitcoin holder, then just hold that shit till zero.
Yeah,
But
model for life, guys.
we're not trying to do that. Cause like, look, if this went down, oh my God, that would be nuts. If it went all the way to 3,000, 93%.
I'd be taking out some loans for sure.
But at this point, yeah, well, that's what people are doing with the loans is a big use for it is basically when there's dips, they'll take a loan out against BTC or Ethereum, whatever, and they'll just double up on a position at a low.
Yeah, and that's wild. And we've covered the upside potential in previous ones, guys. It makes sense some scenarios.
It was wild. So let's go back to some other stuff besides crypto. So Nas 100 we've been following for few weeks now. Let's just clear this up on the weekly. Basically, weekly time frame had hit this area right here, the support level, which we had marked. As you can see with the wicks, we had this huge bullish candle. This thing flew up 11%, which is look at the comparison between crypto and even this. It's fucking wild. But I think flew up 11% on this. And then as you can see, this was in a downtrend structure. And then coming to the daily time frame, very clearly we were in a downtrend, forming these lows and then these lower high points. And then as you can see, boom, we broke. So this right here was that first higher low. We closed above the resistance right here. And then on the 4-hour time frame, this is kind of the position that we mapped out. When we opened last week, we opened right here. And we were saying that we would only enter on a retest. So just simple break and retest strategy. And then we entered on the retest right here, 3.46 risk reward on the trade. And then we basically were just targeting the previous high point right here. Target 1 was this. Target 2 is this, 3.5 risk reward. And we're on the come up right now. We're moving up. I wouldn't take another entry on this unless we made another higher low point. So just be patient. Be patient on this one. If we scroll in, we can kind of see that we are retesting a support level, and we did just form like a morning star. So this potentially could be a decent area to enter from. Let's just move. Well, let's put on something to actually mark this. So remember, this is our target. So we wouldn't want to enter this trade unless we can get a 2-to-1 risk reward. This would be where we would put the stop loss. If it breaks the support level, then we don't want to be in this trade anyway. So that's pretty much Nas 100. We're going to keep kind of just continuing to hold the trade, the original one. And then this would be the re-entry kind of right now, retesting support, morning star, still bullish. So that's Nas. Then we've got Nzd USD. So the effects has been kind of crazy last couple weeks. So I haven't been doing as well with the analysis with it. So we're going to try to clean things up a little bit and get into it. So weekly time frame, we've been kind of chasing this thing a little bit to the downside, but it's clearly bullish. We had a bit of a downtrend here. And then as you can see, we just broke this previous lower high, boom, new higher high right here, closed above resistance. We even did a little like retest, rejection here, and then broke above. So yeah, this thing's definitely bullish at this point. And then coming down to the 4-hour, with it in mind that it is bullish. And just look at this trend. It's very simple. You just look at it real quick. You clearly see 1, 2, 3, 4 touch points right there. Like it's clearly in an uptrend. And then where would we want to enter this? So ideally, we're entering at a support level. You know, right here would have been a great entry on the break and retest. We were still kind of chasing the sells last week, so we didn't really get to take advantage of that. But now we're gonna flip, and we're gonna be a little bit more bullish. This is a bit more risky because there's really just no support level here. The support is down here, as you guys can see. This is more of what I would call a rectangle pattern, and even it's not a head and shoulders, even though there's like a left shoulder head. This is not a right shoulder. It's retesting the head. This is not a head and shoulders because this is just flat bottom right here. So this is more of a continuational pattern. Now, if this was moved down in this area, this would be a great buy entry. We're right at the support. We'd have to kind of wait for this to close, but this would be a good area, but we're not there yet. So it makes this a bit more risky. If we were down here, we could do a little tighter stops, so on and so on. But again, we're not in that area. So we're going to have to either take a risky trade. And if we go back up to the weekly, look at what we're targeting. We're just targeting this previous high right here. So we could even move this down a little bit. So, you know, we could either target this area, take the trade now, or we could actually wait, see if it comes down. But I'm just going to leave this on here for the week. We're going to see how it plays out. So this is kind of the trade. This is the idea, rectangle pattern in an uptrends, weekly time frame transition from a downtrend into an uptrend. So that's the idea on Nzd Usd, and that would mean that the dollar would be getting weaker. So let's actually look at DXY and see if that lines up. So if this trade were to happen, it would mean the dollar is getting weaker. And as we look over to DXY and we move up even to the weekly time frame, we can take this off. DXY is pretty bullish. DXY is pretty bullish. It's nearing a main resistance level at 99, about the 100 area. So it's nearing a resistance level, but it's not there yet. And then coming to the 4-hour time frame, we've got this making not exactly a pennant because it didn't make a subsequent higher low here. So we're forming some sort of descending, pretty much like a descending triangle pattern.
Yeah, 100%.
Right here, right?
That's a big one.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see. I mean, it looks as though it's gonna continue to the upside and it's gonna kind of break. But normally this pattern, it would probably break out of the bottom and move to the downside. Let's see. Like normally it would do, if this is where it's currently at, normally it would do something like this, continue to make these lower highs and then boom, go to the downside because this is just going to keep getting weaker and weaker, the support level, the more pressure that's being put on it. But it looks as though it's kind of breaking a bit to the upside. So if that's the case, if this thing moves up, the dollar is going to push down and we're going to see it retest the support level. So let's be aware of that. And looking at GU, let's kind of be more mindful of where the dollar's at. And looking at the weekly, so last week we got sniped on a trade on this one because we're trying to short this. And this is the thinking process behind this, guys, is literally the weekly clearly in a downtrend, forming lower lows, lower highs. And then we had a break of support and a retest. So last week we were just trying to get it on this super early and it just wasn't ready yet. It had this last minute push up. But as you can see here, it's kind of ready now to dump. So we had a doji, we have resistance, that's 2 confirmations. We're clearly in a downtrend. And then 4-hour, we just need 4-hour to line up with the weekly. And 4-hour, we just need a lower low to form. So 4-hour needs to close below this 1.315, 1.316 area. And then we need a retest. And then we're going to enter this one to go short. And then we're pretty much just targeting the previous support level, which is down here. So yeah, that's GU. This kind of lines up with the dollar index a bit more as well. So a bit interesting. Got NU kind of going one direction, GU going another direction. Always good to have multiple ideas on here, but GU definitely looks a bit cleaner. And we have a bit more confirmation. Now, GJ, I didn't really do much on analysis wise because kind of broke out last week very unexpectedly. It hasn't broke this resistance literally since 2016. So it hasn't broken above this level for a substantial amount of time, and we just had a really significant break of this area. So, I mean, we should all be pretty bullish at this point on GU. There's no really opportunity to enter at the moment, in my opinion. And if anything, this right now is shaping up to actually break out and go to the downside. Based on this kind of ascending channel that it's in, it'll most likely break out of this little channel and then shoot to the downside. So we got to just be patient. This is not really on the watch list for the week. I'm just going to move this one down. And then we've got USD Cad. So USD Cad has been moving within this range for a substantial amount of time, been bouncing up and down for several weeks, ever since November, pretty much. It's already the end of March. So literally 4 months, it's been bouncing in the range. As you can see last week, finally had a dump back into the support level. So at this point now, you know, we're most likely looking for buy opportunities. We're in the support level. We're going to retrace regardless, even though it's very bearish. Overall, the structure is bearish, right? But we are going to still trade the range. And I mean, pretty much this is a little bit different of a trade. What we would want to do on this one is literally just any type of rejection here on the downside. We would then just take a long, and remember we're trading the range here. So the targets are pretty much going to be, you know, here, they're really going to be the other side of the range, because that's kind of the bet that we're taking. And then if we're doing that, we can obviously put stops pretty wide here. And then we can kind of create some rules for ourselves if it does bounce up to do some take profit. And this one lines up with the dollar being bullish as well. So these two line up with DXY pretty well. NU doesn't line up. That's a bit different. NAS 100 trying to continue with the buys. And then we've got BTC just kind of chugging along here. So we'll see what BTC does. That's pretty much all the analysis that I have for you guys. We've been posting on the stories for, you know, about a week and a half now about the Forex League Elite program. Some of you guys on the call, you're already in the lifetime membership. If you're already in, then it's included. But we've upgraded pretty much all the services that we offer. You know, the signals, the trade copier, the new trade copier is out now. It copies all the signals. The minimum deposit for it's 10K. If you guys have less than that, we can try to work with it. But Forex League Elite basically encompasses everything. One of the things we've redone recently too is Nick does small webinars every Wednesday. So he does 2 of them. And then we have Hanzino doing 2 webinars a week. So there's pretty much 4 opportunities every single week at all different times to hop on, to talk to us, to talk to other members and get their take. And then there's also the funding that's included in it as well. So if you guys are interested in getting involved, you have to apply. So we're gonna basically go through the applications, and whomever gets accepted is gonna be able to get a spot. There's gonna be only 20 spots for this month for the membership. And the reason we're doing that is just to keep things a bit more organized, because there's not many spots on the webinars available and stuff. So we can't take a bunch of people on. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the session, and we'll see what this week brings.
Yeah. So enjoy the rest of the weekend, guys, and we'll be here another week. Let's get it.
We'll be back next week.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
As always, enjoy the week, everybody.